Hey, MCE crew, I am not going to be investing in a certain asset class the way I've invested in it in the past because there's a disturbing trend developing with regard to this asset class that's going to trap a lot of people. It's going to lead to a lot of investors potentially losing a lot of money. And a lot of investors already have lost a lot of money because of this developing trend. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, why I'm backing off of it. Now, before we get started, as I always say, go ahead and hit thumbs up, like this video, help us out with the algorithm. If you don't like the content, hey, fine, just hit thumbs down twice because I want you to really let us know you didn't like it. And then if you are a subscriber, I thank you. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do me a favor, hit subscribe. Now, I got a little housekeeping item I want to cover before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video. It's okay to disagree with me. I welcome it because I don't know everything, and disagreements in the comments might help me understand the situation better. So I definitely want that. But someone disagreed with me in the comments, and then as I dialogued with the individual, they were honest. They were, and I appreciate this. They were totally honest and said, hey, I didn't watch the video. Well, what are we talking about? Look, you've got to watch the video before you disagree with me. The thumbnail and the title are not going to be substitutes for 10 minutes of me elucidating on a topic. So please watch the video. It is fine if you disagree. It's fine. We're not CNN where you got to think one way, okay? That's not what we do here. So you can disagree, but you gotta come from a standpoint of informed disagreement. You have to watch the video. This is a visual medium, for God's sakes. All right, now that we've done with that, let's move on. Berlin to vote on confiscating rental properties from corporations. Now, when you think that word, corporation, when you see that, you think, oh, big, overgrown, glass, skyscraper, people in suits, no empathy, all they care about is money. That's what they want you to think about. In Germany, when they use that word corporations for reasons that I'm about to show you. In a time when ultra-left progressives, socialists, and liberals across the U.S. are quietly gathering in corners and testing the public mood with suggestions that the next logical step in the U.S. transformation to a socialist utopia is expropriation of assets, Germany is actively moving toward seizing rental properties from corporate landlords to provide housing to the masses. All right, so if they're able, let's just cut to the chase. If Germany's able to do this to large corporations, publicly traded companies in Germany, then mom and pop landlord have absolutely no chance. And this is definitely a test bed by this young lady, Jonas. I will link to this so you can read it for yourself. This is definitely a test bed to see how much private property can be seized, how much of the means of production in Germany can be seized by government interest. This is a test bed. It looks like so far it's working really well. Jonas is a activist over there, socialist activist who has been working to accomplish just what is going on, the seizing, the taking, the confiscation of property. She's been involved in the radical campaign urging Berlin city government to expropriate 240,000 properties from Germany's biggest publicly listed residential landlords, accusing them of squeezing out lower income long-term residents through shoddy maintenance and jacked up rents. All right, as inflation goes up, rents have to increase, okay? That's just an inevitability. You're not going to move into an apartment and 5 years later have the same rent that you had when you moved in the first year. That's just not how it works, okay? And if you want stability in your monthly payment for your residential needs, probably need to look into buying a house, quite frankly. Now, I don't know how it works in Germany, but that's how it works here. She is hardly alone, she being Jonas, having collected more than 350 1,000 petition signatures. Their proposal, which targets corporate landlords with more than 3,000 apartments each, will be voted on in a local referendum in September. Amazingly, polls suggest nearly half of Berliners support expropriation, which would force the companies to sell their properties to the city government at a fair price. Okay, that's an very ambiguous term, fair. But again, real estate is where it starts, and then you get into a situation like in Venezuela where you start seizing, other business-owned property like oil apparatus. Okay, and I don't want to hear this thing about, oh, well, you got sympathy for the corporations. I've never been given any compensation by a poor person. We're just going to be open and honest here. When I was in the W-2 world, guess what? I worked for a corporation that had a lot of money, enough to pay me and a couple of 100,000 other people. So corporations do have a valuable place. Now, I'm not saying that everything they do is correct. Absolutely not. Corporations are run by fallible human beings, so they're not perfect. But they do provide a valuable service in the furtherance of a capitalist society. In terms of the popularity of this whole thing, it's not too surprising since Berlin was the capital of communist Germany at one point. It's still a striking observation that half of the population in one of Europe's most influential cities is planning to do away with private property. Maybe not entirely at first, but once you start expropriating apartments under the pretext of the greater good, you will never stop. And that's absolutely correct. And what Berlin and these other governments, including the United States government, could be doing, what they could be doing is teaching and inculcating their citizenry into how to get a piece of this expanding economic pie. But instead, they choose the easy route, which is just to genuflect to base emotion and have people continue to live in generational poverty. This is what governments do. And in so doing, individuals within the government, bureaucrats and politicians, are able to hold on to their power at your expense. Okay, you might be saying at this point, hey, Tyrone, that's Germany, man. That's thousands of miles away. It's not even the United States. Why are you so amped up about what's going on in Germany? Well, because it looks very similar to what's going on in California. And you know what they say about California. So goes California. So goes the United States of America. So we've got a law. California law prioritizes people over corporate home buyers. Now, I took an article that was diametrically opposed to my view because I want to be balanced. But let's look at the heart of the matter here. Tenants, affordable housing groups, and local governments will get first crack at buying foreclosed homes under a measure approved by Gavin Newsom. This is called first right of refusal. So before a foreclosed home can be put out on the market, it has to be presented first to the local government. The bill is designed to keep corporations from snapping up homes and letting some fall into disrepair as they did during the Great Recession. There's that word again, corporations. Now, you and I can go out, we can create a corporation today, okay? Doesn't mean that we're going to be among the multi-billionaire class. Corporation is simply an entity, a legal entity that any mom and pop can establish to house rental property in. The issue drew national attention a year ago when several homeless mothers calling themselves Moms for Housing moved into a vacant corporate-owned house in West Oakland. Okay, so they did the little squatting thing. It was among 15 bills Newsom signed into law as renters and home buyers again struggled during mass layoffs prompted by the pandemic. No, mass layoffs prompted by Newsom and other governors shutting down the economy. Okay, that was a decision. Don't act like at this point that this is just something that magically occurred. No, governors like Newsom, like Whitmer up in Michigan, like the disgraced Cuomo, and like our governor here, Hogan, in Maryland. They made that decision to shut their economies down. The governor said the measures will directly lead to more affordable opportunities for renters and homeowners. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Florida to sell you. The government does not run anything efficiently. So if this is more affordable, then it's going to look like the government housing of old, where it's in disrepair. We just had a scandal here in public housing a few years ago in Baltimore City where several workers were accused of harassing tenants in exchange for repairs, intimidation in exchange for repairs. We imploded, literally, public housing buildings we had that were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we did that because it wasn't working. Now we're going back to it. So the whole rental paradigm is something that I am not going to be looking at anytime soon, because the trend is going in the direction of these governments seizing property. Look, we already saw this happen with the eviction moratorium, okay, where the government, not even the legislature, but a bureaucratic arm of government, the CDC, came in and said, you landlord, you don't have the right to collect rent right now. And the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, is writing rules with regard to legally binding contracts between landlords and tenants. So if you're sitting there saying, well, what should have been done, Tyrone? Well, I'll tell you what should not have been done. We should not have shut down our economy. All right. That was a big mistake. And I have some theories on why that was done, because you did not have to, be the brightest bulb in the tool shed to understand that shutting down the economy was not going to work. So for these reasons, I will not be renting. I will not be looking for a situation where I can acquire real estate for ongoing income purposes. Now, I do still see the value in purchasing properties to improve them, purchasing properties at a discount, improving those properties, bringing them up to the standard of the neighborhood, and then reselling them for a higher price than I purchased it for, or purchase plus improvements, reselling it for a higher price. I do still see value in that, but I will not be renting, and this is why. This trend is developing and will continue. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.